It's going to be a pretty quick video today because we're far from getting all the details on this, but I couldn't resist letting you guys know about some of the changes that were just revealed by FC Okami at Fenris Creations in regards to force projection changes in EVE Online. We already knew there were some changes like this coming in the game's major update in September, but I had honestly planned on making a video a bit closer to that time, going through one of the popular community submitted suggestions for fixing its many issues. That was something I actually signed my name to, and was mostly about integrating progressively extreme jump fatigue on Ansiblex jump gates, and we'll see some remnants of this concept lingering in what has actually been announced, but otherwise I'm very glad I had not yet started work on that video, because what we got today absolutely blows that idea out of the water. The community loves a monthly thread about issues with force projection, and naturally a big part of that is Ansiblex jump gates. Campaigns to be on the CSM or Council of Stellar Management very often involve some kind of statement of position on Ansiblexes. Love them or hate them, they've been part of the game since 2018 and have had an extremely influential effect on nullsec ever since, almost single-handedly responsible for the layout and borders of many nullsec alliances. FC Okami lays out the basic issues that Fenris sees and wants to solve. Force projection via Ansiblex jump gates is a solved puzzle and needs shaking up. Corporations and alliances need logistical friction because overcoming challenges like that is what makes the game what it is. In their current form, Ansiblexes are too strong, and Fenris wants to make room for smaller and newer groups to flourish and grow in nullsec. FC Okami makes note of something though, which I think was maybe the biggest oversight of every suggestion for fixing force projection so far. People are using jump gates for a lot of things, and reaching out to the furthest edges of Alliance territory to project force or protect sovereignty is just one of those things. For every occasional massive Alliance fleet travelling the length and breadth of its empire, there are hundreds if not thousands of players using these gates to get from local market hubs to their ratting space, move industrial resources around, and explore their local regions. What penalises whole alliances and coalitions should, where possible, be lenient on individual pilots. So what are the proposed changes? First up, we've got jump rate limits in the form of a capacitor for the structure, which reduces based on the ships going through it and can only be restored over time. We have no idea what that rate is going to be placed at just yet, and the news post on the EVE Online website makes it very clear that the specifics are going to be subject to changes and tweaking, as they should be. We can imagine though that these are going to penalise large numbers of large ships traversing the jump gate within a short time frame. As such, they are going to limit alliances to either smaller fleets or smaller ships. But there's a catch. The amount of the structure's capacity used by this jump is going to depend on the zone that the Ansiblex jump gate is in. Measured from 1 to 5, Zone 1 will be the space immediately surrounding your alliance's sovereign capital system, within 5 light years specifically. Then 4 additional zones will radiate outwards from that. The further away from your sovereign capital you are, the higher the capacity usage for going through the Ansiblex. This will enable more compact, densely populated alliances to operate relatively unaffected, while broader, sparsely populated alliances will have a more difficult time projecting and may find holding some of their furthest reaches of space unsustainable. As a quick aside, since Ansiblex jump gates will be using capacitor proportional to each ship when being jumped through, it would be a bit superfluous to have it also consuming liquid ozone as it currently does. So after this change, liquid ozone will not be required. It'll be interesting to see how this affects the ice market, but Fenris have made it clear that they will be monitoring the economic impacts closely. For similar reasons, the current toll system where you pay to traverse the jump gate will be removed. For people like me who often have precisely 0 ISK in their main account, rejoice, you will no longer have to make an embarrassingly quick account swap or beg in fleet for someone to send you a pitiful amount of ISK to take the gate. You'll notice, by the way, I keep saying alliances and not coalitions. Well, there's a reason for that. Another change coming for Ansiblex jump gates is the functional departure of ACLs or access control lists for the uninitiated. While ACLs will still technically be a thing, the ACL for a jump gate can no longer include anyone not in the alliance that owns the jump gate. This will essentially make it such that coalitions need to either all merge into one alliance, or will have to maintain separate jump gate infrastructure which they cannot share access to. This will undoubtedly be causing a lot of high-level talks in the nullsec coalitions about future planning, especially for smaller alliances who rely heavily on access to coalition infrastructure. As if that wasn't already enough to rock the boat, capitals will no longer be able to use Ansiblex jump gates with the exception of Rorquals for whoever is doing that. If that's you, please stop doing that. This will vastly limit the distance at which alliances can project their capital fleet. For the benefit of anyone without experience in nullsec, a very classic setup for alliances is to have a hub and spoke system, in which the staging system has numerous nearby jump gates that propel you to the edge of your space, or at least to regional gate systems. Through this method, capital fleets can get very far from their staging system in quick time, by using Anciplex jump gates and making subsequent jumps through sinos, potentially even further if there are regular regional gates they can take too. With these changes, not only will they lose the raw light years of distance that a chain of Anciplex jump gates can cover, but also the convenience in their location. It may be that the fleet either needs to take considerably more gate-to-gate warps to reach their destination, vastly increasing the risk of being bubbled and intercepted, or will need to use their jump drive to travel along a significantly less convenient chain of sinos, which themselves will require pilots to light and are far more susceptible to being destroyed than your average Anciplex jump gate. Alliances who only recently planned their entire infrastructure around the SOV changes of Equinox and the ore changes of Catalyst will be glad to know that Fenris is considering options like a rig amnesty, to allow groups to shuffle things around a bit without losing too much of their investment. I, for one, am really excited for these changes. They're not what I expected, they're actually far better than I'd anticipated. When some representatives of the community, myself included, put forward a solution that involved jump fatigue, we mostly did so because it was a practical solution using already in-place mechanics that would require minimal overhaul. Fenris aren't shying away from such an overhaul, however, and have come up with something even more far-reaching than I could have imagined. The hope, of course, is that this has the effect of breaking up larger coalitions in nullsec, creating long-term potential for smaller groups to take and hold their own sovereign systems without the threat of enormous incontestable fleets kicking down their door on a whim. My only concern is that unfortunately, the desire to live in nullsec and the toils of taking and holding sovereign space has years of conditioning behind it. We already see plenty of barely inhabited space that just so happens to have a flag planted in it. And not very often is that space contested outside of groups whose intent is very much to change the flag and leave the system just as unused as before. This is still a good change, but I think it could take years to fully realize the effects and create the ecosystem where small groups actually get that opportunity. But you know what they say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is now. Only a quick one as promised. If you have any thoughts about these changes, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. If you want more updates about these changes as we get more information, then don't forget to subscribe and come join my Discord linked in the pinned comment. If you want to help support the channel, consider buying your next EVE Online pack, subscription or Plex from marquisdragon.com using the link in the video description. Use coupon code BILL at checkout for 3% off your order. I've also got YouTube membership enabled now. It's 99 cents, and for that you'll get access to my monthly video where I go through some of the interesting comments for each month, more of an unscripted rant if I'm honest, and I'm sure I'll have more casual unscripted content available for members too, as and when the mood arises. I really appreciate everyone that already signed up, as it's all helped me invest in the software and hardware I need to keep making better videos.